got someone.
Hi, welcome everybody to our webinar for today. I apologize for the delay, a few technical issues there, but thank you all for joining us. If you have to rush off and miss the end, then we're going to be publishing this on our YouTube channel so that you can see it there as well. So today is a very special webinar, and I think for many students, certainly the ones that I deal with and ones in other schools, I think it's going to be incredibly useful for you. So today we've got Dr. Elizabeth Lee with us. She's actually an alumna from Bukit Bintang Girls' School, like many of you guys out there, as well as Wolfson College, Cambridge, and she obtained her master's in education, specializing in psycholinguistics there. She's a Doctor of Law, Nottingham University, and has an honorary doctorate from Victoria University as well. She joined the Sunway Education Group, or Sunway Group, in 1992, and has overseen its growth from just 1,000 students to over 30,000 students now in different educational institutions there. She's earned many educational and female leadership awards in Malaysia and Asia and beyond along her journey. So many, it was a page long, so I won't list them all. And she was actually the first female president of the Oxford and Cambridge Society in Malaysia, and has been the bedrock of our EXCO in the society, familiar to many of our members for many years. So Dr. Elizabeth Lee, welcome to our webinar.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you so much for that very warm welcome. And my goodness, all those accolades. I don't deserve it. Thank you, though.
Yeah, you do. You're a bit of an icon. So you're joining us from home today, and you were saying earlier when we were talking how much you're missing your campus and your students and your staff. And I just wondered, what is the most important thing you're looking forward to when you can get back on your campus?
I truly look forward to getting back, not just to campus, but to seeing all my students and my colleagues again. The campus is very much like a second home. We call it our academic home to most of us, whether it's to the students or to the staff. So we're missing home. We're missing the other part of our home.
And it's actually huge, isn't it? Do you want to just kind of outline the different aspects of the Sunway Education Group?
Many people do ask me, what does the Sunway Education Group mean? Because they may have heard of Sunway University or Sunway College, but the Sunway Education Group is actually comprised of some 18 educational institutions, and that includes Sunway University, of course, and our Sunway colleges across the country, including the forerunner in Sunway City here in Selangor. And we also have a branch of that now in Kuala Lumpur at Sunway Velocity in Cheras. And we have our campus in Johor Bahru, known as Sunway College JB. And there's also Sunway College Ipoh in the beautiful township of Sunway City Ipoh. And not to forget, Sunway College in Kuching, East Malaysia as well. Then we also have our Sunway International Schools. One is Sunway City itself, and also another one in Sunway Iskandar, where we actually overlook the second link to Singapore down in the state of Johor. And we also have our Sunway TES, Center for Accountancy Excellence, where we have earned the right to use the Center of Excellence because we have distinguished ourselves in offering professional accounting programs, including the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, more popularly known as the ICAEW, and of course the ever popular ACCA. Then we also have our various education and research center, research-related centers, such as the Yunus Social Business Center, the Sunway iLabs, and Sunway R&D. And with eating, makan, being so close to all our hearts, we even have two culinary schools, one in the university under the School of Hospitality, and then another one which we joint venture with the world famous Le Cordon Bleu of Paris, known as Sunway Le Cordon Bleu here. And speaking of JVs, we also had a joint venture with Monash Australia to set up Monash University Malaysia here. Hence our very close relationship between our institutions and even our countries, I dare say. And our other Australian partner to this day is Victoria University in Melbourne. You mentioned it just now. And we have also added Lancaster University from the UK to our list of partners, where Lancaster validates the Sunway degrees and awards their testama or degree certificates on top of the Sunway certificates, so that when the students graduate, they actually will collect their Sunway degree scroll from our Chancellor and another one from the Lancaster University Chancellor. So speaking of the UK, this I must add, because recently we have also established collaborations with the universities of Oxford and Cambridge, especially since we are speaking to the Oxford and Cambridge Society of Malaysia, and also the other Cambridge, better known as Harvard University across the Atlantic in the USA. Also, of course, not to mention UC Berkeley over to the West Coast, and we're currently also working to establish more formal links with MIT as well. And of course, via research, we also collaborate with many other well-established academic and industry partners around the world. The idea is to bring the best of learning and research from all over the world to Malaysia. If I may add something which many do not know, the Sunway Education Group is actually owned and governed by the not-for-profit Jeffrey Chia Foundation, which I dare to venture to say is the largest education-focused social enterprise in Malaysia. And this is thanks to our benevolent founder and chairman of the Sunway Group, Datuk Sri Dr. Jeffrey Chia, who has bequeathed all the education institutions into the foundation. And of course, he insists that a well-rounded education must be rooted around our core values of integrity, humility, and excellence. So at the Sunway Education Group, it is not just about academic qualifications, but really about the development of the whole person according to each student's strengths and talents. I subscribe very much to Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, which differentiates human intelligence into specific types, such as musical, logical, verbal, linguistic, rather than seeing intelligence as dominated by a single general ability as we know it. So I'd like very much for our emphasis to be on quality and a values-based education, which prepares our students for life, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, which has brought us all together, where we appreciate the importance of resilience to rise above the adversities, if I may put it that way, and to desire to contribute towards a cause that is hopefully greater than our individual selves. Sorry, I think I may have expanded beyond your question. I'm so sorry.
The group is so big. I mean, the other thing that I think is the group is also very generous, because I know that you bring a lot of incredible speakers over to your Sunway campus, and you have open access to come and listen to those amazing speakers. So all these extracurriculum things you're talking about, if you're interested in them, I suggest you contact Sunway, get on their mailing list. We take students from our school to some of the amazing Sunway talks with professors that are coming over and visiting. You're very generous with allowing other people to access that as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It is open. It's open to the community. It's open to other students. And it's amazing. Sometimes we find that we have more outsiders than we have insiders, so as to say, but that's fine, because it is our way to contribute to the community. So Emma, please, continue to bring your students over. We love having them. Yeah, they ask wonderful questions. They're great. Yeah.
So obviously everybody's now online, and that's quite challenging. So what have you been doing to assist students in that transition to working online? and particularly with courses that have got practical elements like engineering. You talked about your culinary arts courses and medicine. How is that being taught being online?
Well, online. Where do I begin? Okay, but we actually at the Sunway Education Group have been keeping our eyes on the horizon for a while now, and have always felt actually that there is a potential for online learning support, especially since the dawn of the haze season, you remember, which attacked us almost every year now. Hence, we have felt more and more the need for a blended kind of learning and the use of online pedagogical tools in the delivery to support face-to-face learning. So we have also been investing on the e-learning platforms and the necessary IT infrastructure to support this over the last few years. The idea was to prepare for the eventual push for us to go wholly online if the haze got so bad and all of us have had to stay home to study and teach. Now, little did I know that instead of the haze, it is a new novel coronavirus which has caused us all to go online. So we have a robust system and platform in place that we will now have to continue to build on. But actually, thinking now, as far back as in January, we recognized that the demand for more online support was upon us in the midst of the fear of the coronavirus. And as you remember, that was when China was locking themselves down. And so we were keeping an eager eye on what's happening there. And a lot of people were in a state of panic. And we had at that point actually asked for a kind of blended learning, that we had a dual track where students would still come to campus for their face-to-face learning directly from their teachers, and for those who missed the classes as they were in their hometowns, that they could follow from home as teachers either live streamed the classes or uploaded the learning materials onto our e-learning platform. So the staff and students were beginning to delve gingerly into this mode of teaching and learning, more gingerly from the staff, I would add, than the students. And then, of course, MCO just was announced, and we literally had no choice but to go full stream into the virtual learning. And I do admit it was tough, especially since classes were ongoing at that point, and both students and staff do not have the benefit of the superior 3.8 gig internet connection from the campus anymore now that we have all been relegated to our homes. But having said that, when push came to shove, I don't think anyone in their wildest dreams would have imagined that we were able to transition as seamlessly as we have been able to do so, plus or minus some hiccups here and there. For this, I must take my hats off to our staff, who quickly realized that it was no longer a choice to be debated upon, but a reality to accept and to embrace and to thrive eventually. Hence, I'm really grateful, to the many members of our staff who volunteered to teach and support those of our colleagues who may not have been so online learning savvy at the beginning. So not having that choice is sometimes a blessing. And perhaps COVID-19 was the catalyst for the necessary change. And if I may add, this is one of the many instances where the power of the human spirit to unlearn, relearn, and co-learn has become very evident and rewarding.
Yeah, certainly all the teachers are having to learn. They're on a steep learning curve too, and we all learn.
Yeah, yes.
Teachers are modeling learning, which is good. But do you think that when campuses are allowed to reopen, you'll have some kind of hybrid system? Will that be allowed, or will that be the reality where some choose to not come into campus for a while, whereas others choose to come back on? So it'll be a mix again.
Definitely, at this point in time, everything is so up in the air, and we can't be sure what is going to happen, whether it's going to be hybrid, or whether it's going to be, totally online, or whether they just come back to the university. The mode of delivery can be one that is hybrid to even enable international students to join us. I mean, we've thought about that from their home countries. But again, still so many uncertainties as different countries may have their borders still locked, and hence students cannot return or come to Malaysia to study. I think, earlier on I talked about some kind of a personalized education. This could very well be the way forward. As we feel our way forward, we will certainly be exploring various opportunities to redefine the educational experience. Intuitively, it makes sense to have this hybrid choice option that you mentioned for students to choose based on their needs and realities. But we'll have to see how to mount this on a practical level.
Yeah.
At Sunway, especially through our Sunway iLabs that I also talked about earlier, we are exploring various new courses, educational formats, pedagogy, target groups that are relevant to the needs of the people. And some of these have included recently, in fact, right now, is the Sunway Alibaba Global E-commerce Talent Training Program, which facilitates students to be part of the digital economy, or eventually gig economy too, training them to be business owners and equipping them with entrepreneurial skills and knowledge. So we've included this into the curriculum of some of our programs offered by the university and the colleges. And earlier on, I also mentioned Ecole 42, which is a collaboration with the French-based Ecole 42 to provide the best training for computer programming that is free and open to all. And there's no requirement for prior diplomas, where entry is actually solely based on motivation and talent. And another program that we have in place is something known as the e-commerce jumpstart program, with various industry leaders actually, including MDEC. And this is really to help the Malaysian retail entrepreneurs and SMEs to establish online business in these unprecedented times of crisis.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So I was going to say, experimenting with different ways of delivering courses and also courses as well. I'm very conscious that many of our listeners today will be Form 5 students or A-level students. And one question that the UK universities keep being asked is that, do you get a discount on your fees for the online version of a course rather than one that's in person? What's your view on that?
I love that question. I think it's a stigma for some reason that online education is cheap and maybe even inferior in some sense to the traditional face-to-face in-class teaching and learning. And the students and parents feel to some extent that this isn't what they signed up for, and hence they ask for some kind of compensation or discount, as you put it that way. Well, I can appreciate where they are coming from. I mean, I wish to point out that going online doesn't bring down the quality of the teaching as learning, the teaching or learning, nor the institution that they signed up for. The whole world actually is turning online. As this is forced upon us by the circumstances, it's not something we chose. And we had a recent Zoom meeting together with Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia, my chairman and the Vice Chancellor of Cambridge. And he told us that many of the UK government universities obviously are also many of the UK universities are forced to go online, including Cambridge. And the UK government, in fact, is not allowing them to cut their fees at all, because essentially the students are still getting the same education, the same quality of education, if not even better support now. So I see my academic colleagues truly working so much harder, putting in so much more effort. And this is for the students during this time more than ever before. Double, triple, multiple work is being done in comparison to just coming to the class, teaching face-to-face at one time. And they've had to follow up with each student to make sure no one is left behind and that they are truly learning on this new platform, not to mention the extra work that has to be done in preparing and uploading learning materials. So I do recognize that COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting MCO around the world has caused significant detrimental economic impact on many families. And so the request for discounts could very well be symptomatic of some of their current financial situations. What we do is that we encourage our students who face financial difficulties to discuss the situation with, for example, our finance department. As you are aware, we are placed in the Jeffrey Chia Foundation, and we have dispersed scholarships amounting to almost R500,000,000 to date. And many are unaware that our institutions are not for profit under the JCF, as is known, Jeffrey Chia Foundation. And we actually use the income solely to support the academic mission, including scholarships. So unlike many other private institutions in the country, we do not make profits from the fees that the students pay. And we certainly do not give any money to shareholders. So the student fees mainly go towards covering the salaries of the staff who continue to work tirelessly from home in order to bring our students uncompromised quality education. So, and it's also to ensure the continued maintenance and improvement of all the physical facilities, library, IT, support services, ongoing IT infrastructure investment. I mean, all these are going to, the students will come back and they will enjoy it. It's just that now it's the MCO. They still use library, they still use student services, and not to mention the accrediting and the validating fees, unlimited access to all other resources and services, safety, security, amongst others. So the operational cost savings from running an online semester is actually rather limited.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's echoed by lots of educational institutions, and it answers my other question, which was about financial assistance, because obviously that's a major worry for some students. So for those students that are thinking of joining Sunway in the middle or any other kind of educational institution, how can institutions integrate those new students? I mean, normally you would do lots of welcome fresher events, you would have buddy systems, you'd have welcome Macans and all those kind of things. How do you do that for new students joining you if they're not able to get onto campus?
When MCO was announced, we were about to start our new semester. And I still remember one of the things I had to do was immediately record my welcome speech so that we could welcome the students online. And so we had orientation totally online. Life must go on, classes must go on. And so we just, there was no makan. Not for now, but perhaps we will do that when we go back. But aside from that, they dive straight into classes immediately after all their orientation, which was done online. And there was some learning in the first week as to how to get online and get used to the system, etc. But very soon after that, it was straight into their learning.
Yeah. How is the socializing done? Are students socializing with each other and making new friends as well as sort of learning? Is that aspect still able to function?
Of course. Being online doesn't mean that they don't see each other at all, because being online, when you have online classes going on, they actually interact a lot with each other. And they see each other, they can ask each other questions, and they get to meet friends that way. And so that is still happening. And the lecturers ensure that they keep as vibrant an online classroom as possible as they're moving. I continually ask the people around me, how are our online classes going on? And I watch what they are doing now and then. I have one young man who is studying online right now from home with us. So I can see what he's doing. And when classes are on, he locks himself in the room and he works at it. And then at other times, he's communicating with his friends, his classmates, and they socialize, they play games. So there's a lot of that going on, even in the hostel. I mean, in our residences, the students, we have about 1,000 students living
Oh
on
wow.
campus. Yeah, so they also socialize online with each other. They have games with them in the evenings, competitions. It's quite fun to see that. I haven't found time to join them. I would love to.
So, just a reminder to people who are listening, please put any questions in YouTube that you want to put to Dr. Elizabeth, and we'll pass those on, and she can answer them. So, any questions, put them in your YouTube feed. So, one thing we find when we talk to students is they are quite nervous about going overseas at the moment, and there's a huge attraction in a twinning, having some kind of twinning program. Do you think that twinning programs will be more popular now, where students can start in Malaysia, they know what it is, they know what they're getting, they know the state of the virus in Malaysia, and then they move move overseas in year 2, or can they do it in term 3 even, or do they wait till year 3 or year 2? How are the twinning programs going to be affected by this, do you think?
It's interesting that you asked about this concept of twinning, because twinning is felt to be very yesterday already. You know what I mean? Let me just tell you a little bit more. Sunway Education Group was actually a pioneer in twinning and what then became 3+0 programs in Malaysia, basically meaning that the students could stay here for all 3 years of the degree and not having to go overseas, like what we do with Victoria University. And they earn their Victoria University degree here, totally in Sunway. And this emerged as a solution during the Asian financial crisis, when many of our Malaysian students had to stop their education midway in many countries due to the financial hardships at home and also the declining strength of our ringgit. So your bringing this up at this time is quite interesting, because we can see ourselves also going that way now. However, the twinning model has changed quite a fair bit now, and certainly for us in some way over the years, we have moved from these so-called franchise twinning programs to one of validation, where we partner with, in our case, with Lancaster University, where they will validate our Sunway degrees, and they will ensure that it is of a certain, of the standard that is worthy of their award as well. So that was what I meant by, when our students graduate, they have two testaments, one from Sunway. So if it's a first class from Sunway, Lancaster has validated it as a first class equivalent from Lancaster. So they would also issue the same degree, first class, but obviously it's done in Sunway, and the transcript will say that quite clearly.
Yeah.
So it has actually become that kind of an arrangement already. So the possibilities are there for students who want an international degree to actually don't have to even worry about whether they have to complete it overseas. They can do the whole degree here in Malaysia, for example. Um, but I can also see, further innovations with online options and blended learning. Maybe in time to come, we may be able to collaborate with one of our foreign partners and top universities to offer a compilation of the best of which what each university can offer.
Yeah.
For example, Sunway may offer courses in sustainable development, e-business, e-commerce, culinary arts,
Yeah.
while our partner can offer other complementary courses. And then together we develop an international degree, that brings the best from each of our institutions. And this can occur with online and blended learning as well. And this will definitely expand the horizon of the mind,
Yeah.
academic reach of all our students. Mm.
So based on your experience, if the parents or students sat out there now, sort of trying to weigh up whether to join one of these programs or not, what are some of the factors that they should be thinking about? I mean, obviously, cost is one of them. What are some of the other things, do you think?
Safety and security, whether we like it or not, is a very big consideration now. And for example, while just before the MCO, I was desperate to bring my daughter home from the US. Uh, of course, the education that she's receiving there is first class. I don't doubt that at all. But unfortunately, her university closed its doors on all the students, and so they have either had to come back or they stayed on. But just not the whole lot of them, but a small number were allowed to stay on. And she was actually one of those who was allowed to continue back in Mount Holyoke. But the thing was that we were not very sure, her father and I were not very sure about her eventual safety with regards to COVID-19. And so we felt then maybe it's better that she comes back to Malaysia. We just didn't have the confidence of them being able to deal with it, or that my daughter would be safe. And so we shipped her back. We flew her back as soon as possible, just before before the MCO, in fact. And Emma, you and I have spoken. You went through exactly the same experience, and,
Yeah.
and you brought your kids, packed them back as well. So safety and security is a big thing, and I'm very proud of what we've done in Malaysia. Look at the evidence right now. We are definitely flattening that curve, and they are saying that, well, there will be many mini peaks in time to come, but then this is a country where I think we can all feel a lot more confident about
Yeah.
our ability to keep ourselves safe, and the foreign students to come to us safe, and our own children and our own families safe.
Yes, absolutely. That's the big factor. In fact,
Yeah.
Maybex did a study of did a questionnaire of students planning to go to the UK, and safety, as you pointed out, was the number one thing. We've had a few questions in. So V Ong has got two questions for us. One is, does Oxbridge accept A-level assessments assessment-based results? I think he's talking about applying maybe A2 or AS, and yeah, the university's been very clear. I think refer to the university's websites; they're updated a lot. And his other question was, how would students get assessed online? That's an interesting question for you. Yes, how are you assessing them online?
I think everyone is grappling with that. It definitely is going to get interesting because people are so worried about cheating and this and that. But in the first place, I just believe the whole idea of assessment has to change. I mean, come on, all these public exams, and talking about Oxbridge, the fact that we have all these dreaded tripods at the end of each year. I actually don't agree with it, and I feel that it needs to change, because in the real world, when our students come out and they start their career, they start working, no employer is going to set them an exam at the end of the year and say, okay, let's have this exam now and let's see you score A, B, C, or D. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about whether you can work as a team, your attitude, your resilience. Are you able to continue working sustainably and keep producing the work, the effort that you put in? It's continuous. If I dare say assessment, it would be continuous. So assessment has to change. And Valerie's question about what does Oxford and Cambridge look for? I mean, for the longest time, we've been hosting the Cambridge interviews in Malaysia, and they have always held their own assessment tests. That means above and beyond A levels, they actually have their own tests. And these tests are very much on aptitude, more than anything else. So there you have it, yeah, I just think overall assessments have to change.
Yes, but at the minute, they're being done in a sort of a hybrid sort of way, right? I mean, the structure is still there, but are students still doing exams in some way, or how is that being done for those coming to the end of their courses?
What we have done is, one of the things we've done is we've done away with grades So it's either pass or fail right now. And some people are not used to that, especially if they feel that, oh, I'm an A scorer, I'm being denied of my A here, I'm only getting a pass. But that's ridiculous because, this is not the time to talk about A, B, C, D, or E, because it's about whether you have successfully completed your course or not, because there's really no exam where we can grade you according to a set of grades, so as to say. So one of the things we have done is we've done away with the pass fail, so that we are able to assess their understanding of their learning, and how much they have learned, and whether they have understood, and the application of what they have learned. So definitely a lot more coursework, for example, is being involved here, rather than to sit. What exam is that? That public exams are out of the question right now. But in time to come, I don't know. It might come back. With enough social distancing.
Okay, so those that are finishing their exams now, whatever grade that they get from the exam boards, that's acceptable to Sunway, of course, if they want to then join. The local universities and colleges are accepting the grades that are being awarded by exam boards in different ways.
Yeah, because really for us, at the end of the day, we are looking for a student who really wants to learn. It's not about the grades again, because at Form 5, at fifth form, it may not bring out the best in a student. They're still learning, and a lot of them are late bloomers. So the grades, to me, has always been irrelevant. It's about their attitude again, that their hunger and appetite to learn and to contribute. I mean, in Oxbridge, this is what we're looking for, right? Not just the sponge that sponges up all the teachings, but someone who's going to contribute to the community and start to build their leadership capabilities, because we're all looking for that leader that we want very much to nurture in time to come.
Yeah. We've had, just recapping that, parents and students should not panic too much about this change in the grading assessment system. So you've heard it from the horse's mouth that it's not going to bar your entry into the next stage of your educational journey. So that's the most important thing. You get to your next place. We've had a question from Christo Salvam. He's talking about the course that you have with Victoria, the Victoria University program, and he's talking about the recommending of this course to Indian students. And can you tell us something a little bit about that course and why that's a particularly interesting course?
Oh, Christo, if I know Christo very well. Dr. Christo is joining us from Bangalore, actually, and he is, yes, he's a very senior member of his institution there. So recommending Indian students to join courses with Sunway College University program. Yes, as I said before, we have this twinning program with Victoria University, where our students actually study the curriculum that's provided by VU, and which has been taught for, oh my goodness, 20 over years now at Sunway. It definitely was the program that I was very much instrumental in bringing on to Sunway, because this was the former university, or the alma mater of Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia and Puan Sri Susan, in fact. So we brought VU along to us, and it has been a very thriving and successful program for all these years. And it welcomes students from all over the world. The students actually study according to the curriculum that is provided by Victoria University, and they will graduate with a Victoria University degree. So, and we have students from all over the world joining us on this program. Probably not from Australia. The ones who come to from Australia are the exchange students who would come over for a semester or so, because it's exactly the same curriculum, exactly the same time. And of course, now with all this online, they will also be, the lecturers from both institutions are very much connected with each other to make sure that they can provide the learning for students online.
Yeah. So obviously the idea of having different courses recognized and accredited by different educational institutions around the world and the region is a very attractive one for students who want to be in Malaysia. And we've had a question from Chu Ju Liang, and he's wondering whether because of this pandemic, there will be more flexible courses coming up as well. So maybe shorter courses, longer ones, just a lot more flexible and a lot more. You've mentioned some of the new ones. Do you think we'll get
Yes.
different structured courses?
Yes, definitely. Just now I mentioned some of the new courses that are coming out, which are short, you know, the Alibaba ones and on e-commerce, for example. And Eco 42 is going to be something which is very revolutionary and totally, different. And that is on computing. So then our ministry has been talking about micro credentials, and in the university, for example, we have been trying to break down our programs, our degree programs, into micro credentials that we can offer to our students, so that they can access them in small bits, so as to say. So all of these are coming on board, and I think with this new this new normal, as we are talking about, this could very well be again, the way forward, and it may move a lot faster than before.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, I mean, thinking of some of the students I know that are unsure about what to do, not least my own daughter, who's unsure about whether to go to do a master's in Imperial at the minute. So this idea of these short accredited courses, while students and families decide do they want to make a jump and go overseas or not, is actually a really attractive prospect, thinking about it now.
oh yes. Yes, definitely. I do agree with you. Of course, there are a lot of so-called free courses online, or so it seems to be free. But a lot of times they are just teasers, if you know what I mean. But if you really want to get very serious, then I would suggest that you look to an institution which is offering some kind of certification on top of your online learning. So at least you
Yeah.
have that with you, and you can show that on paper you have achieved some additional learning in the meantime.
Yeah, and also I think if families are worried about how long the economic impact of this will be, committing to a 3 or 4 year course, especially overseas, is just such a huge financial commitment. So the ability to
Absolutely.
sort of do a course locally that's a short course, that's accredited, that's recognized and valuable, and then to just see how things go financially, and then maybe make a bigger financial decision in a year or so. Yeah, it's good.
Yep,
Good stuff.
I agree. I mean, the whole idea of Tan Sri Jeffrey just setting up Sunway College in the early days was exactly to help with the financial situation, because in 1986, 87, oh my God, I remember that was the midst of the great to me it was a depression of some sort, economic depression, as far as Malaysia was concerned. And a lot of people were suffering from a shortage of cash, and we have students who are not able to finish their studies, who have to be called back. And this happened again in I think around 1998. Around then, the same thing happened again. So this is sort of like cyclical, and this cycle is interesting because it has forced us to relook at education provision across the world to make it more affordable and more accessible. So I dare say the same thing is going to happen again. Because at the end of the day, every education institution, their objective, their whole reason for going into education is to provide learning for the young people, or for the masses out there.
Yeah.
And this is our reason for being, you know what I mean? And so if, of course, we have to think of making ends meet and all that. But at the end of the day, we also, because of this reason for our being, we want to find ways to see how we can make that happen for our people. So, and this would be the same universally all over the world with everyone, that we will have exactly the same educational objective.
Yeah.
So I dare say it will change.
Yeah. So, universities are having this flexible mindset in responding in innovative ways. And I think for some parents who thought that their child was on a certain path and they were going to do a certain route, there's also a need for students and parents to have that changing mindset that these are different times and there are different solutions that you can have.
Yes.
Mm.
You could think about deferring. I mean, we've had students who have actually asked if they could defer by a semester or so, and we certainly would allow that, because for all kinds of reasons they may not be able to come back for their studies, and so if they wish to defer, why not?
Yeah.
Learning is lifelong after all.
Yeah. So just explain how that works in practice. So you have 2 semesters. So if you defer one, do you just join the next one? Are they rolling? Do you have a rolling enrollment?
Yes, we do definitely have a rolling enrollment. There's no doubt about it. So they will just have to catch up accordingly and to see when the subjects are being offered again. So depending on the university has 2.5 semester per year. And of course, the pre-university, they will have essentially sort of like 2 long semesters, so as to say, or some have 2.5 semesters as well, depending on which pre-U program it is. So it really depends on the different programs. In pre-university, of course, it's easier. You know that with A levels, for example, if you don't do the June exams, you can always sit the year-end exams. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
they can catch up and come back the following semester. The same with our Canadian program, for example. They also have two main assessments every half year. So it all depends. And with the university, of course, it will be a lot more flexible, because that is our own courses, that is our
Yeah.
own university. And so it's up to us to see how we can best tailor it, to capture our students, and to enable them to be able to come back, whether virtually or in person, to learn with us.
Okay. We've had a question in from Viong again. He agrees about, there's a new normal on exams and that you've got pass fail. But how does that affect subjects like dentistry and medicine that are super competitive, and pass or fail is not enough? We need to get the creme de la creme on that course. How do we determine that if it's just a pass or a fail? And how do they get to the next stage?
I was talking earlier on about that we had this joint venture with Monash University, Malaysia, and that was when we established the Jeffrey Chia School of Medicine and Health Sciences. And that particular course is obviously, a highly sought after medical course. And I remember that it's not just based on exam results. The dean himself, or his representative, his senior representative, would actually interview each and every student that applies to see whether he has the right attitude and the right aptitude, obviously, to take up this course, whether he's going to be a real doctor in time to come. So yes, these are highly subscribed courses, and you need to know who you bring on board. So I imagine the so-called assessment would be different. There could be a lot more interviewing. So in fact, when I talked about assessment earlier on, and I said, let's do away with public exams. And this is what I mean. I mean, there are so many other ways of assessing a student's capability, ability, aptitude, attitude. You can actually interview the students. The fact that every year Cambridge comes to Malaysia, they are interviewing at KTJ, they're interviewing at Sunway, all the students of Malaysia who have applied. And that's exactly what they're looking for. It's beyond the results of what public exams give. They want to look at the person, the student, whether this is the student who will thrive in in the Cambridge environment, and who can contribute to the Cambridge environment and grow via that contribution as well.
Yeah, yeah. So the assessments that they do as well, but the interviews are, yeah, huge part.
Yes, yes.
So one of the fantastic things about going to university, whichever country, is that you get so many students from different countries, and that's just such an enriching and learning opportunity. Going forward, do you think in Malaysia we will be more attractive as a destination for foreign students, or do you think around the world students for the next few years are probably just going to stay at home?
I think most students, at least at the beginning, because of all these uncertainties, will tend to stay at home. All right. While I wish very much that they will not worry so much and come over to Malaysia and study in our institutions. However, I, as a parent, can also appreciate that we are unsure and we are concerned. But having said that, you know, as I said before, the way Malaysia has dealt and managed the whole COVID-19 pandemic and spread, and this very immediate flattening of the curve is so commendable that I would want to encourage all the people to actually not to worry so much and to come to Malaysia. And especially when we are talking about a global economic recession, we're definitely a lot more affordable.
Yeah, we've actually had a question from Woon Ching Yong, and he says, my question would be, Doctor, while online classes and socializing is done online for current students, should we be pausing your international student recruitment for the new academic year until they can join in a face-to-face environment?
We have actually international students right now joining us overseas. You know what I mean? They may not have come. We're not letting their studies stop for even a moment, you know. That's why I said academic progress is one of the foremost things in our mind, that our students can still carry on. So these students may not be here, but they are accessing our learning online, and at the time when the borders all open up, you know, we will welcome them with open arms to come to us. Whether there is a need to quarantine them, that would be another thing that we will have to deal with. We will have to be very careful. Since January, we have been quarantining students. I think to date, we must have quarantined maybe slightly more than 100 students who have come to us from January till to the MCO, obviously, because once the MCO happened, we didn't take in any more students, international students. But they were staying with us, and we were quarantining them, 2 weeks of quarantine. And so we're very used to that. In fact, we're just saying that if they balik kampung and then they want to come back, what will we do? Because they want to come back, they want to use the internet connection from our on-campus accommodation to access their online learning, which is actually a very wise thing to do, because the internet connection in our homes may not be so superior.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, when they come back, we have toyed with the idea that maybe we would have to put them to 2 weeks quarantine again, you know, but of course they will be in their rooms and all that. And we've done that, and the students have adjusted very well. You know, the 100 students have adjusted very well the 2 weeks. So we've got a good experience in that. So we're not very concerned.
Okay, just wearing my mom hat here. How do the students in quarantine cope without a support network of people around them, like the practicalities of their food and things?
Oh, nonsense. When they are on, when they're very well taken care of. When they were in quarantine with us, their food is delivered to their doorstep. You know, they have the choice of, you know, a package deal that we can offer them, or they also have the liberty of ordering online, Grab Food, Food Panda, you know, that kind of thing. So they had support, and then, you know, they have access to health health checks. They were not left on their own, you know. There was a security guard, not supposedly guarding them, you know, or things like that. But, you know, if they had anything, they could just call security, very friendly security officer who would say, yes, can I help you? And even the laundry was being looked after. So, you know, no issues there whatsoever. And in fact, I must share this with you. When our hotels, you know, our Sunway hotels, were being opened up to be quarantine centers, and we offered the services of our residence team to actually speak with our hotel colleagues, so that, you know, we shared with them. Our team shared with the hotel team, who were about to receive their quarantine returnees from overseas. And that's because of the experience we've had. Very well taken care of, I must add. I even got cards from them to thank me. How about that? I know. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
mom is not needed there. um, one last question, really, just about the overall macro picture of the Malaysian education market, and the landscape, really. What are your positive takeaways for how Malaysian education as a whole is going to be affected in the medium term from all of this?
Okay. First of all, it's about embracing change. In our case, you know, online delivery for both our staff and students, as I talked about, we have certainly created we have certainly created an unprecedented opportunity to change our teaching and learning methods, stakeholder engagement. What I mean by that, I think parents and educators are spending more attention to each other now, and which is a good thing actually for the students. And then I talked about assessments, the need to change as well. You know, we have always had this very ancient view about how assessments should be all about, and as I've discussed just now, that has to change. So then the other thing is, on a more serious note, this whole experience has given us more time on our hands to reflect on the pro-COVID-19 trajectory as we humans are on. So the freeze in many aspects of our lives, for example, has certainly allowed us to reassess our perspectives and our priorities and our purposes. Life as we know it needs to be rethought, reconfigured, and, well, to fit into the new sustainable models, if I can put it that way. I certainly hope that the canals in Venice and our river in Malacca, have you seen that? It's
No.
so beautiful that it will continue to rejuvenate. There are fish, you can actually see it. And the positive change in the air quality, I talked about the haze just now, you know, the air quality in the world around us. I hope that we won't revert to the pro-COVID-19 times, and we can truly get rid of our annual haze attacks.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, as I think about it, COVID-19 has also shown that governments and individuals are more adaptable than we thought possible, and given the right motivation and perhaps even desperation. And the fragility of some of our institutional structures have been exposed, as we have seen. And we have a unique opportunity now to actually set things right. Let's do things all over again. You know, let's throw away the old, as I was saying, you know, think out of the box. The box is no more. COVID has destroyed the whole box. So we're beginning to reappreciate real experts who can help inform and find solutions. But we are also sensitized to the fact that there is just so much that we don't know, and we can only be guided by whatever best information at that point is. So reminding us that I suppose that we have to be humble and self-aware of how little we know, and even of our own fragile existence. And then finally, the outpouring tales. Oh my goodness, you know, every time we're talking about, you know, who are our superheroes nowadays, and the human heroism, especially those involved in the front lines, essential services. We're not going to look at the delivery boy in in other ways except with great respect. The nurses, the doctors, and all this has somehow recalibrated our appreciation of what is truly important. And I certainly hope that this will bring communities more connected together and focusing on all of us becoming more human and humane, because these are the qualities that are going to ensure mankind's resilience to the many unprecedented challenges that we will be facing in the near and distant future. MCO may be lifted in a couple of weeks, but that's only the beginning. We have to go back. But when we go back, you talked about a new future, a new normal. But then the thing is, this new normal will not be normal for some time to come, because it will continue to change. And until a new normal very much further down the road. And that is something that, my goodness, I would love to see if someone has a crystal ball.
Yes, but I think it's good to see that you have a very positive. I'm not surprised to hear you say that, but it's good to actually finish on in the education sector and the worry that students have and parents have, but to finish on so many positives that we can take from this in terms of education going forward. Yeah. So thank you very much, Dr. Elizabeth Lee, for that
Not at
informative,
all.
entertaining, insightful conversation with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. And thank you to everyone for coming on board and listening to Emma and myself. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your questions, guys. We'll see you next
Thanks.
time. Yep. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.